everyone, welcome back to Immediate Movie Reactions. I'm here after seeing the Thunderbolts asterisk. Stupid, but it's part of it, so there we are. This is actually a continuation, potentially, of the Avengers saga, where they bring back White Widow, Yelena Belova, played by Florence Pugh. Sebastian Stan is in this as Bucky, the Winter Soldier. We got David Harbour as the Red Guardian, and John Walker, U.S. Agent. I can't remember the guy who plays it, and I also don't remember who plays Ghost. For some reason, Taskmaster is in this, but then she is like almost immediately killed. And Julia Louis-Dreyfus is in this, who I thought was kind of silly and cheesy in the series and the Disney shows, and I wasn't sure was going to be able to translate to the screen. But does she, in fact, have the golden touch? Because this movie, I think, was absolutely fantastic. It's definitely the best Marvel movie that I've seen in quite some time, and I've been a fan of most of what they've put out lately. This is a movie that I laughed at throughout. It does center around Bob and the Sentry, and so Julia Louis-Dreyfus is playing Valentina de Fontaine, and she is trying to start a new team of Avengers or a new hero. And of course, everything has gone wrong. And then the new Avengers, the Thunderbolts, are brought in to kind of clean it up, but then they're also there to be killed. There's a lot of kind of cheesy, cliche sort of things, but that's okay. That's what we want out of a comic book movie, essentially, right? We don't really need anything really new. Looking at the comic book series, the Sentry story was kind of controversial because it wasn't great, right? It was kind of stupid. And in this case, I think the movie is really, really good until Sentry really comes out, and then it's stupid and it's silly, but he's actually only in it for a very short period of time as Sentry, and they do, I guess, a good enough job with it. Like I said, I do think it's the weakest part of this movie. When he does release the Void, when he becomes the Shadow, the Void version of Sentry, I think it's much better. And I think that the metaphor of overcoming trauma and anxiety and depression, DID, whatever, sort of mental health issues that they're looking at in this movie, I think it does a really good job of portraying that and how can we overcome the sort of the void within our lives. This isn't really trying to change the world in any way. It isn't a deep meaning message movie, but it is fun and it does do a good job with it. I think there have been some movies lately, Woman in the Yard particularly, that I think could have handled this sort of thematic material a little bit better. I think that, like I said, the movie is extremely funny. I laughed throughout it. The best part of it is it doesn't really set up jokes. It's just kind of a witty banter and dialogue. And I think that it holds up. These are characters that you really do, even if you haven't seen all the shows, you get to know pretty well. And they do a great job of giving them an arc within it. Jake Schreier is the director of this film, who I don't think I've ever seen anything by him, but he does a fantastic job of capturing the menace of Sentry along with the humor and developing those story arcs. The action is actually, it's great. I think Florence Pugh is right at the center of most of this. They do a good job right at the beginning. There's this sort of well, I guess it's a four-way fight scene, and the choreography and the way we kind of see everything that's happening. And I've always said one of the coolest things about, or the best things of a good superhero movie is letting the heroes do what those heroes can do. And in this movie, we do see those individuals. Now, as Yelena says, all we do is punch and shoot, right? So there isn't a lot of high flying and explosions, even though the scale of this movie was a little bit bigger than I thought it was going to be. And actually, I'm all over the place here, but I didn't think this was going to be very good. I actually thought this was going to be pretty darn bad. So I was very, very surprised to enjoy this movie as much as I did. I am going to give this movie an 8. I think that this is a movie that we should see in the theater. I think, like I said, there's a grand scale. I think that it does a good job of explaining what is going on with the Avengers. It was so cool to see at the end as the big, not even a fight scene, but the big conflict occurring at the end is at the same place where the original Avengers film took place, and seeing those callbacks is absolutely fantastic. There's a moment where I was actually gasped out loud as the Void is first coming out, and I'm not going to give anything away, but there's some really cool stuff that happens there. Yeah, so this movie is I definitely recommend seeing this, and I'm kind of excited for what's to come with the Avengers and what's to come with the rest of the MCU. So anyways, please let me know what you think. Like, share, subscribe, and I will see you off to the next movie. Hey, welcome to the post-credits scene. I'm sorry, I totally forgot to bring something up. Number one, this movie does have 2 end credit scenes, which extends the length of the movie by like 10 to 15 minutes. It's probably a little bit too long. I don't know why we still sit through these, because they were funny, but they don't really add anything to the story. And the second one does bring in Fantastic Four, but very, very loosely, or very briefly, I guess. The other thing I would say is that this is the strongest language in any Marvel movie to date. There is quite a few curse words that get dropped in this. I say this because there were some kids in the theater that I thought were probably too young for the level of language as well as the thematics of this movie. It is a bit dark and it does get a bit scary. So just bear that in mind when you're deciding to go with your family or not. I think that this is something I would probably think for, like, you know, preteens, teens, that sort of thing and up. Anyways, thank you. I do appreciate you all, and I'll see you after the next movie.